Hello and welcome to today's edition of Your Questions Answered with Father Gruner. I'm John Veneri. This is a program where we take the questions that you send to us via email. Father Gruner answers them. We have discussions about them. Please continue to send us your questions at questions@thefatimacenter.com. Here's someone who writes and says, I recently attended a supposed CCD instruction at my parish about marriage. It turned out to be more on dialogue. The sacrament was not mentioned at all. I got fed up and quit. Was this New Age?
Well, first of all, CCD, what does that stand for?
It should mean Catechism of Christian Doctrine.
Yes, so it's
been
supposed to be
redefined now. But it's
so Catechism of Christian Doctrine is supposed to be giving Christian doctrine, meaning Catholic doctrine.
Yes. Yeah.
So, of course, it's one thing, to engage as a manner of teaching is to sort of engage in discussion, but if there's no mention of the sacrament, first of all, we might as well, and of course this is coming up at the Synod, this whole trying to redefine, if they even bother using the term redefine, the sacrament. First of all, the sacrament, what is the sacrament? The sacrament is the free, it is a solemn undertaking by a man and a woman who are free to marry, that is, that they're not married to somebody else. And so it's a contract. It sounds very cold to speak of it as a contract, but
that is the language of the church. It's a contract.
Well, first of all, before we even talk about the sacrament of matrimony, all the sacraments are signs. They're sacred ritual signs that confer grace and that were founded by Christ. And so if you take baptism, which is an easy one to talk about, is you have the sign of someone being washed with pouring water on the head of a second person. So the baby, in this case, it could be an adult, but a baby is having his head washed, as the priest says, I baptize thee in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. And those words of the priest are making the symbol or the sign complete. I am washing your soul. And so you have original sin on your soul as a child of Adam, and as such, you have to have the original sin removed. It's removed by baptism. So the moment the priest is pouring the water and saying the words, I baptize thee in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, the soul is washed when he finishes saying, while he's pouring the water, when he says, and of the Holy Ghost. That is the formal sign, or it's what is called the form in sacramental theology. And the washing with water is the material sign. And the two together form this sign of baptism, which effects what it signifies. It says, I'm washing you, and it does wash as you wash. Mm-hmm. So the soul is washed so similarly, every sacrament is the same way. It is a symbol, it's a sign, but it's a sign which, and what is a sign? I remember my lectures on sacramental theology. What is a sign? Do you think you can speak about a sign for 10 hours? But what is a sign? A sign is something that this is going back more than 40 years of my instruction. But a sign is, if you see the sign exit, it tells you where the exit is from this room. So it doesn't cause you to exit. It doesn't but if you want to go, you want to how to get out, you look at that sign, it tells you something. Mm-hmm. Now all it is just paint and letters on a piece of paper or something, or on a piece of wood. But the thing is, it indicates something else than what you actually see. So you see the words EXIT is telling you this is the way to get out if you want to leave. So that's what a sign does. It tells you something other than just a piece of wood. Mm-hmm. and some paint. What I'm getting at is that, so the same way this sign of baptism is more than just the sign, but as Pope Leo XIII points out, and I think St. Thomas Aquinas, it effects what it signifies. Mm-hmm. So it's the only signs that do that. This exit sign doesn't cause me to leave the room, doesn't make me get out of the room, it just tells me where it is. But baptism, the washing of the soul, it actually wipes the soul clean when the sign is complete. And so it affects the signification of what it's saying. See, and that's something that, anyway, so in matrimony, the sacrament, of course, without the sacrament of matrimony, it's not a CCD construction. I mean, it's not instruction at all. So if it's one thing is if they're discussing it is one thing, but if they're not going to talk about the subject that matters, then they're not. It's just.
Well, we have to remember too this since Romano Omario points out that the word dialogue never appeared in a church document in its entire history until the Second Vatican Council. Then dialogue becomes very important. And I think Gaudium et Spes uses the word dialogue about, 48 times. I haven't counted, but it's a lot. But dialogue in the modern setup has kind of become an end in itself. That the only thing that really matters is, as one Vatican document says, dialogue, peace, and personal relationships. I mean, they sound like Oprah Winfrey there, but that's what it is. And so this ability to dialogue and listen to the other and recognize the I, thou, and all that, existentialist business, this is really where they go and where they stop.
Yeah.
And they get lost in this, and the poor people are saying, what about the sacrament?
Well, obviously this person got fed up and quit.
And yes.
And so, first of all, basically, the church, Christ came to teach, and he sent his apostles out to teach, and he sent priests and bishops and cardinals out to teach. And what are they supposed to teach? Not their own doctrine, but what Christ taught. And so, and Christ founded the sacrament of marriage for people to, if that's their vocation, and it is a vocation of most adults, not all, some are called to religious life, but most of them are called to vocation of matrimony. And they should know what they're getting into when they, for example, the whole idea that matrimony is not just, because you love somebody. It's certainly it helps, but it's not. It's also it's a three-way contract. It's a contract between the man, the woman, and God. And if God is not included in the contract, there's no marriage. Mm-hmm. And so you have to know what God's expecting of this.
And how God designed marriage, because marriage itself has a nature.
Yes, all of that. So if they're not going to give them that, then of course don't bother attending. Now, is it New Age? God knows.
We don't know.
But it sounds like modernism. It could be.
What we can say is we weren't there, so we don't know if it's New Age. But what we can say is it's counterfeit. You're getting a counterfeit. You're getting something that sounds oozy Christian, dialogue, peace, working together, all these secondary things.
Without the substance.
Without the substance and without the primary thing that you're there for, which is to learn about the sacrament of marriage, which is not just, people tend to think about, well, marriage is indissoluble and once you get married to one person, you have to stick with. That's all true. But there's also, that needs to be taught is the beautiful part of marriage.
Well, the other thing is there's a grace that goes with marriage. It's, as I remember the Spanish woman when I was in Spain, I was living there for a few months, and she was a widow by that. She told me that she wanted to, it was in a village, so she wanted to move from that village where she was born in to the village where her husband came from, and he didn't want to go. And so for her whole life she lived in her village, and she thought she was marrying her way out of her village. And she ended up saying, marriage is a cross. She said, matrimonio es un cruz. Marriage is a cross. But
not for everyone.
Yeah, but the second thing is, I was boarding in her house, or no, she was feeding me, I think it was, and I was paying her for that. So she had what she needed to live the rest of her life. And, I think she had children too, I'm sure. But I think she was trying to tell me, don't get married.
Yes, and then there's other stories that are much more, inspiring than that. Bishop Sheen once asked a man, what would you be if you could come back 2 years after you died? And he said, my wife's second husband. That's how I feel, And so marriage is a beautiful, there's so much to it. We have Pope Pius XI's encyclical on marriage, Casti Connubii, where it talks about you get the doctrine, you get the rules, you get everything there that I would recommend to people read. And this is the type of thing that should be taught, not dialogue. Dialogue. In fact, Monsignor Fenton, when he saw these churchmen getting all oozy about dialogue, he said, well, dialogue is actually lines that actors recite in the play that were written for them by someone else.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so how solid is this?
Yeah.
So anyway,
and some of this dialogue is actually written by others, and it's all a show just to.
oh yeah,
to
yeah,
move
we
it.
could do a whole program on that. The whole fraud of dialogue, which is, but again, a lot of it is a counterfeit and a distraction to take us away into something secondary or tertiary that sounds Christian, but doesn't teach us what is primary.
Yeah, and may end up teaching something contrary to the
Which is often the case in these things. So anyway, we hope we answer that, and we will see you on the next program. Thank you.